It would be great if, after you receive your reserve study, you're all done for the next 20 years. But that's simply not real. In this portion of our Breaking Down Reserve Expenses webinar, I explain all the factors that are in a constant state of change. If you haven't updated your reserve study for a few years, you'll probably understand because the projects listed there were before the years of high inflation that we've been experiencing. But it's not just costs that are continually changing. The association's needs often change. And remember that Father Time and Mother Nature are very real factors, affecting all your best laid plans. Reserve expenses are sneaky. They're always changing size and moving around. That's why you need to update your reserve study regularly. All right, now let's talk for a moment or two about how your component list changes from year to year, why a reserve study is a perishable commodity. It's fundamentally because everything's in a constant state of change. The costs, whether it's inflation, supply chain, or other things, conditions, age, weather, severe weather, usage, whether it's a place with a lot of kids, an active population, or more of a senior citizen, elderly demographic where the usage, frankly, is more gentle. But you have to be very careful. You don't want to have threadbare carpet where someone can trip and fall and very bluntly break a hip. So economic environment, inflation, and the reserve balance, which changes from year to year based on what you spent, what you didn't spend, the funding that you did or didn't do, all those kinds of things. And the boards and their priorities change based on whether you may have to deal with some roadway potholes and accelerate that a year or two. And then you hear that your parts are getting hard to get for your elevators. So due to supply chain, you might want to accelerate the modernization of your elevators. And maybe no one is playing tennis at your association right now. So maybe you stall that. And the hallways and lobby, the priorities change. So maybe you push that back, or maybe you even push it forward. But those priorities change. The point I want to make with that is the plans don't always work. Mother Nature and Father Time get a vote. It's not you set the plan and then you get to drive the bus. Father Time says, sorry folks, it's not going to last that long. And you might get hit with a lot of rain that just shows that your roof just isn't cutting it, or a lot of heat that's just baking some of your outside surfaces, some of your paint. So understand that your reserve plan, the components, that is going to have to change just because the factors change. Now, let's talk about how you deal with those changes. You add, you edit, delete components as appropriate. I'm going to assume that most of you have a professional reserve provider that you work with on this project. So you're going to discuss these things. Hey, this is deteriorating a little bit faster, or we are finding some roof leaks here that are new this year, or we're having some plumbing problems. Communicate that to your reserve study provider, and they will help you work through these issues. And it's really going to be helpful to keep a notebook, a folder, online file with reserve project documentation, so you are not wondering and saying, oh gee, what did we spend that 50 grand on? Have that information. That is gold to a reserve study provider, so they can understand what the rhythms are of your association, the expense rhythms, the maintenance rhythms, the replacement rhythms. So all those kinds of things will help your reserve study provider correctly identify, adjust, and then add, edit, delete as appropriate. At Association Reserves, we make the present less stressful and the future more secure. If you want to join us in this mission, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment down below on what you'd like to see us address in a future video. Let's plan for your best future.